Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, good afternoon from Africa.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Morning and good afternoon and good evening from Asia.
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome to the second session of the module number 6. Today, we will hear the presentation from Africa in the first part of the session. And in the second part, we are going to develop some contents about the module. And finally, we will going to work in small groups with your materials, okay? I don't know, Daisy, Nai, Vivian, are you ready to start?
Good morning, Angela, and good morning, Perez, and good afternoon, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. We will start by sharing the methodology that we planned, and my fellow will also chip in and try to explain, because in Africa, we are diverse, despite that we're indigenous communities, but very diverse, and some of the issues differ from one community to others, but we have some similarities in it. So we have some of the methodology which will be equally the same from my community with Desi, Vivian, and also Fatma, but there are some which are going to be different because of the diversity and the environmental locality that we have. So I will share, I think so I can share my screen. I'm trying to share my screen. So wanna see. Can you see? Oh, I've not shared.
We cannot see Nai.
Okay.
No.
No se ve.
Mm-hmm. There?
Yes, we can see now, Nai.
Okay. So I will start from my side, and then my fellow will chip in with different methodology that differ from this one. We have different methodology that we ought to use whenever we'll be in the field or when we'll be doing our research in the community. Despite our diversity, there are some of the issues that are equally the same. I'm going to present in terms of the indigenous communities of the Maasai in different ways that I will chip into the community through the issues that I intend to use, or I intend to meet a number of the community in that aspect. First of all, speaking of the indigenous communities of the Maasai, they have different ways to convey messages to the people. not only within their community internally, but externally. If you need to get any information from them, there are different ways that you can access this information. And one of it is the gathering that we have. The pastoralist communities have numerous gatherings, and these gatherings are there because of different activities that we have. They may be for any resolution or peace resolution, or for solving certain issues in the communities, or they are just gathering that are there because of the livelihood system that the community have. One of it is the gathering. We have been having numerous gatherings under one thing known as a manyata. It's sad because many of the people understand a manyata as the house. If you find different people from outside the Maasai territories, they define the manyata as a house. But a manyata is one of the gatherings where the young Morans are either graduating from the Moranhood to adulthood, or is also another type of, there is also another type of manyata where the young Moran are there because of other indigenous generational knowledge being transmitted to them. For example, you find there may be teaching on how to help a cow to give birth. They get the knowledge from that during that gathering. But also there are other activities within the community that they learn. And this gathering do not only involve young Moran, but it involves also their mothers, because they build something like this one. If you can see, this is a manyata now. If you see here, you find each mother of the young age is here, who represent the boy that he gave birth to. And here, these young men are taught. But also during the graduation, after they get married, their women or their wives comes here. Also, they come to the graduation where these young, the young Moran are graduating from the young age to adulthood. Like here, you can see this picture. It's where they were being blessed, graduating from that area. So here we get a numerous information. And if you remember, I said I will use the number of gatherings that are there in my community. During the June, this season has started to be prepared, where they're now preparing these houses. They are preparing these houses. And it's where you can meet women, you meet young men, you meet young lady, older, you also meet prominent leaders from the communities who are the Loiboni or wise men and others who are here with the aims of teaching this young generation. So it's easy to learn different issues from the community through this. During this time, also there are different songs that are sung, which teaches numerous issues in the community, pertaining their livelihood, pertaining their, for instance, where I live, which is the Maasai, we are surrounded by grassland, we are surrounded by the savannah, we are surrounded, but this savannah has different characteristics that maintain our livelihood. So the songs also teach you and give you the information in a huge, in a wider span on how this are. But I'm sorry, I don't know. Are you hearing me or I'm just speaking alone? Oh, okay. Also, another gathering that is very important and easy to access, and one of the easy way to meet the community is ceremonies. These ceremonies are different. We have different ceremonies. There is marriage, there is circumcision. We have also when a woman gives birth, after a certain time, they have a ceremony that bring women together and share food. We have also ceremony that prepare young ladies into getting into marriage. those are ceremonies that are there. And these ceremonies start from June in many parts of the Maasai land, where you meet different ways of conveying messages, understand different ritual, different activity, the identity of the community in that manner. And this time, it's easy also to understand different issues that, or matters that affect their lives, or their welfare, or issues that make them sustain their livelihood. So this ceremony is equal also to Daisy and Vivian. They have this ceremony that are there in the communities. We have meetings. There are very important meetings that you find the community meet, speak, share ideas, but also these fora are mainly on age set. You find a certain age set, like me, I'm married to an age set that is known as Ilkorianga or Romboi. So that age set, when they meet and speak and have their ideas, even the women also have their fora and speak and decide on something. But for instance, in Ngorongoro, we have been facing countless eviction and encroachment of our land. You find age set meet, speak on how we can work on protecting our land or being part of volunteer in explaining the importance of this land to the government or other land users. So you find this fora, it's easy also to access a wider number of women or other community members. We have the storytellings. Storytellings, these are everywhere. You find in the evening, older women tells us different issues, tells us different things that we have in the community and share easily. This is all you find in Fatima community, you find in Desi community, you find also in Vivian community. This is all in Indigenous community. And it's one of the ways that we learn different things that we can learn from anywhere else. But these are, you learn says of the community, why they were saying a certain say. Behind it, it has numerous meaning that maintain this community today. But also we have other activity, like I explained. We have something that people meet, eat meat, share ideas, but also is the learning ground. These learning grounds help us to understand different indigenous knowledge within us, medicinal plants. You know, there are sometimes people ask themselves that, how do this know that this is a medicine for a certain disease? This is generational. We have time that we go, young men stay in the forest, learn different medicinal plants, and also understand that this cure a certain disease and this do this. Why do they learn? This is to help us, despite that we are still, we have these social services, but remember, still we live at remote areas and it totally depend on our indigenous knowledge to maintain our health and others. So this is also another place where you learn several issues in the communities, but understand the ground of your own community through the elders and mainstream. When the men have this of Olpul, we women have the beads making and other choices that we do in the community. It's where young ladies learn and also grasp and convey messages to other generations. These are the gathering that I mentioned, but we have the calendar. And the calendar, the main importance of the calendar is to us to understand, as one of the methodologies, to understand that at what particular time will I learn a certain issue in the community. For example, we have two main seasons in the year, which is the wet season and the dry season. But inside the wet season, as I mentioned, we have the numerous gatherings that I mentioned previously. We have the manyata, we have the ceremonies, we have all that other gathering. But during the dry season, now is the time where the transhumance activities happen, the nomadic activities happen in the pastoral community. You find out it's the time we look for pasture. And this is where now we learn the land use plan, the indigenous land use plan, where the community itself has its own indigenous knowledge of demarcating their own land into this to fit the two seasons. And this is one of the methodologies that can enable me to meet easily this community at different particular time. Currently, we are in the wet season, so it's easy to meet different people at a certain period, despite during the dry season where the community is looking for, is changing its livelihood to pertain on the dry season. For example, this picture, during this time, you see women are busy helping the cattle. It's hard for you to go and get more information from them due to the challenge of this time. But here, you can see how this woman is happily looking at her cattle, they are healthy. This is during the wet season. But also you can see the cattle, how they are enjoying. It gives you that it's easy to that in the morning I'll go and see the women, we talk while they are milking, because even the environment easily, I don't know the English of it, I was speaking now Swahili, easily making you to convey, to get in touch with them. Before I welcome my fellow to add more additional information from the diversity that we have, I would like to share one of the songs that describe all this that I was speaking about. It is in that song how he is explaining our grasslands, our livelihood, the whole beauty of the community. So if you understand the Masa, if you listen to it, you find yourself, you know almost everything that go on in that community. So let me share. So, God. Teacher Angela,
Yes,
can I share this link to you? And then I don't know, because
of course.
yeah.
You can put the link in the chat, and then our peers from FIMI can share it as well.
I've shared in the chat. So that we can see here.
Yes,
Have you
of
seen
course.
it?
No,
Yes.
1 second.
I've shared in the chat.
Dunencita lo. In the chat of Zoom. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
1 second. Can you see?
Yes. Thank you so much for listening. Just to say something, I know you could not understand the language, but if you saw the women, the men was singing, and then one woman was removing her head outside the house. It was simplifying that each morning when we wake up and then come out in the morning and see the light, it shows that it's one of the ways that we impressed the living. That breath that come in to you at first is an impression of how old people impress the living of the nature we have that surround us. But you saw while he was greeting an older man with an hand, it's a norm that men greet men with an hand, but we women greet men with our head. It touches our head. So it was saying that he was explaining something very significant in us, that even today, if I go to the community while doing my research, I should observe their cultural things that I need to observe. If I meet men older than my dad, older than, according to our clan, I should give an head and listen and stay in a distance speaking to them. It's easy for them to impress me and welcome me and to listen to me. So there are issues that actually I'll find time. If you describe it in English, you learn the whole cultural issues in the community, and it's easy to give you an open door to the community. So let me take this opportunity to welcome Daisy or Vivian to add some of the methodology that differ from my community due to the diverse we have, and share a bit before we proceed. Daisy?
Hello, everyone. As we wait for Daisy,
Hello, Vivian.
As we wait for Daisy, let me just summarize, highlight some of the characteristics, like in point form, the characteristics of the research methodology that us as Africa group decided to integrate. For example, we agreed that our research methodology will be, will be culturally relevant and appropriate methodologies, which will take into account our cosmovisions and indigenous ancestral knowledge, in the sense that we will make sure that we use methodologies that revitalize the traditional knowledge. For example, like Nai said, the use of traditional songs and dances. We will also ensure that our research methodologies as African group has the aspect of collective cosmovision, the feeling thinking, and it respects the cultural diversity of the community that we come from. Just like Nai said, it's going to be community participatory approach whereby the community takes the center of the research. We will use a methodology, intercultural methodology, which will effectively or appropriately reflect the realities in the ground. Like, we cannot just wake up and use a methodology that we think it will work. No, we will ensure that the community are also involved in deciding the type of methodology that we will use. And it's going to be inclusive. We will include women, older women, and also young girls, because it's going to be important for us to compare and know the magnitude of the impact of the violence and issues affecting our Indigenous women at the community level. There will dialogue and the ecology of feeling thinking. There will be an ethical consideration, like in case people say they want their privacy to be respected, we are going to keep that. Yes, that is the summary of what we will use. We will ensure that the methods that we use are culturally sensitive and they are effective in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. Daisy? Teacher Angela?
Yes.
I think so. Daisy is not there. And
Oh.
Fatima also already, I think so, you saw her message also, she's not feeling well.
Oh, yes. Yes,
Yeah,
I am.
but what we prepared is for all African, and in case of any question another, we can chip in and then see, then we proceed.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if somebody have a question, a comment for this amazing presentation. Ukila?
Yeah, thank you for my sister from Africa. I really enjoyed the presentation as well as the performance towards the video. My questions is related with correct me if I'm wrong, Mayatai. What was it called? The one Mayatai, right? Sorry.
Yeah, Manyata.
Manyata, yeah, Manyata.
Yeah.
So before you this is very interesting. Before you conducted this this ceremony, was there any ritual? I know there will be the meetings, right? The storytelling. But before you conducted Mayata, was there will be there any ritual like a like putting the fire, for instance, like I have the community like that, or some do and done before the ritual for women maybe and for men that make it this the ceremony or the event will be smooth. Let me know if you if you really understand my question.
If I have understand, you are asking of any ritual which is done before.
Yeah.
Before the event
Before
itself.
the Mayat, yeah.
Yes, we have. There are rituals that are done. Nukila?
Is there any particular, separation between men and women? Because I really like to know. Many taboo for women rather than men, for instance, or this. I just want to know the difference between men for the men and women treatment before the ceremony.
Yes, there are rituals. First of all, we
it's
mix.
Equal, right? Is it equal
Yes,
treatment for men and male and female, and woman and man?
it is categorized. There are rituals that will be performed for the young age set, where the manyata is done because of them. And there is that is going to be done in rituals for their wives. And there is a ritual that is done for their mothers. For the men, the age set, what they do, we have, I don't have the picture, we have chairs that are made of wooden. There are three legs. Those chairs, they put milk and then with honey. And then there are special grass that are removed from the water source, from the spring, the source of water. There are special grass that are removed. And then that is used for them to be blessed. But also they will drink the milk to show these men now are from the young age set to adult age set. Now they are to manhood, and they are given those chairs. And behind, those who will carry the milk are their wives. But we have another manyata where in the middle, their mother, before this one for the old one, their mother, there is a special tree which is being put at the middle of the manyata, and each mother will have a certain shanga, a certain bead that will be hung in that tree. This will signify a number of young men that in that age set a woman has, and this they will be making actually, this language is not ours. I'm getting trouble in explaining. They'll be making a certain beat. And this, while they are making this beat, if there is a woman who misbehaved during the time their young age set is in the moranhood, she will be beaten, which is not a good example. But this is to show that you need to respect your children. It's a certain issue of respect. And that beating is not be beaten by a stick, is her being told that what you did was wrong. So you are not supposed to misbehave or do any sexual intercourse with this young age that they are your children, in order to maintain the respecthood. So in that, there are disciplines that are made. There are special rituals that are done that it's hard to explain, by the way, because there are women who do not have children will be laid down, prayed for. There are issues that is hard to explain, actually. I don't have words. But there are certain rituals that are done during the manyata. Many issues are being done. So I've
Thank you,
answered
Nai.
Mutula.
Thank you, Nai. It's interesting, really. Wow, I love it. I love to see it. Interesting.
Okay. Somebody else want to ask? Or perhaps it is interesting, no? Because I remember the man have been talking about the ceremonies and the trees in her community. Perhaps it's interesting to think in comparison terms. Somebody want to ask or to share? No? Okay. Well, I have a question too. I am thinking because here Indigenous peoples and specifically Indigenous women are talking about the relation between ecological violence, environmental violence, and violence against Indigenous women. And some rituals and dances and songs have the power to repair this harm and violence. I am thinking if in your case, and I and Vivian, they exist songs and dances, ritual dances to repair, to restore the pain of Mother Earth, the pain of lands.
Madam Angela,
Yes.
I don't know if I got you properly because you said about the violence, ecological violence and violence against women. Or did I get you right? Or you said the existing song and dance to restore the pain of the land?
Yes.
Is that what you ask?
Mm-hmm. Yes, here, for example, in justice, the special jurisdiction of peace is now introducing this kind of restoration practices, like songs, dances, ritual dances, as one of the most powerful tools to restore the environmental and reproductive justice. I am thinking, do you think is in your country and in these communities, we can talk about something like that?
Yes, this is there. We have one of the activity mainly women do. It is normal. This is that women, we have those older women, they will see what is going on the land. Maybe there are a number of calamities that is coming to the land. Either there are a lot of death going on, there is prolonged drought. Many women are suffering from maybe marital issues, or they are not giving birth. All those suffering that they are going through, they decide to call upon women all over from the community and find one bomber of the man they know that this man, they have their category to identify a bomber that will host them. And what they do, they will be singing, praying to Mother Earth, and they will have special leaves, special herbs that they'll be using it during praying. And we have the belts that we women have, known as enkitati, a belt that every mother that has given birth has. In this belt, they will take it and raise to, they will raise it to look it in the heaven. Like now we are going through a number of calamities. There is no peace in our land, but we women have the power of giving birth. And always women, anything that come out from women, we believe it is prosperity. There are words that they speak, and they have identify women that will be leading that. So there are songs that they will be doing in that way. And during that period, you find that, I don't know, but we see those calamity reduces, and the land, if there was prolonged to renovate into a good land, and some of the issues ceases. So that is there, and song are there. Yeah, I can explain in that form. And I wish also if Vivian also can give from the Pokot community, but in the Maasai that is there. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Nai. Can you hear me?
Yes, Vivian.
So, in addition to what
Sí, se escucha.
Nai said, in our community as well, there are gender-based violence and environmental issues are linked, and environmental injustices. So, for example, impacts of climate change. In my community, the people who are highly impacted are the women, because of the climate change in the community, usually it results into scarcity of water. And you know, women as the house managers, they travel long distances to get water. And then in the process, they are going to look for water and food, vegetables. They experience sexual abuse, harassment from outsiders, and sometimes even conflict, because now sometimes they trespass other people's territories to get such resources. And apart from what Nai said, yes, even us, traditionally, they carry out such practices like traditional songs, just to stabilize mentally, to calm down. And sometimes the local leaders, like the chief, organize something like a social cohesion meeting, just to talk with the community and to support each other morally, emotionally. And another way of mitigating that is NGOs. For example, my organization, Indigenous Information Network. So they carry out environmental restoration, like rehabilitating their land through planting trees, so that now the vegetation is diverse and they can get vegetables, their livestock can get pasture. And then in the process of planting trees and restoring the ecosystem, you realize that the impacts of climate change is mitigated, and the water, like the scarcity of water, is mitigated, because in the presence of trees and vegetation cover, you realize that they have their watering points. So the water, like the challenge is being reduced. Yeah. So maybe those are just some of the examples of GBV and environmental linkages in my community, and how various activities have been undertaken to mitigate that, and many other. Because of time, let me stop at that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your answers. I think it's a good example for us here in Colombia, because the special jurisdictions of peace are now thinking about environmental and ecological violence in relation with sexual and reproductive justice as a war crime, no? Because the conventions of United Nations doesn't consider these kind of crimes as war crimes, no? And I think it's a good opportunity for the world and indigenous peoples and indigenous women to this reflection. Anania, go on, please.
Thank you. In my community, we have a song and dance to empower Indigenous women. Like every single elements, like sun, river, and the natural resource, we have song and dance Even our even this I remember the song about Bangaja Buchum Dukmi Sagal Hazroe in our language. When we are evicted from our land, then we sung that song, and it was inspire us to dream big about about community, about women, and also it was inspire us to protect our ancestral land, and the most of the violence against indigenous women in our community happens because of the evicted from land and the resource, even though the climate change and sexual reproductive health also related to violence. And everything is happened because we live in a remote place where we cannot raise our voice to reach in the government, all the people who can hear us. So we at that time we are encouraged each other by song and dance and art. Even we have some craft, and some women are creating themselves craft and art themselves to healing themselves from the situation and they face in their life in every day discrimination and everything. We have song, we have poem, we have art, we have craft, even we are talking about the rice paddy, and that also inspire every elements in natural resource and food, everything. We have a song to inspire us. Like I remember when my grandma told me that you look at the sun, sometimes it's bright and sometimes it's dark, but it's still rise in her time, in his time. It will definitely rise in the morning and set the sunset in the evening. So he is so punctual and also shining. When the rain come, it's not shining, but after the rain it will shine. So there are lots of the elements and lots of motivational stuff. Our grandma and our grandparents, they have even the song. It will inspire our next generation to talk about everything what happened with our community. Thank you.
Wow, Ananya, thank you. You are an inspiration, I think, with these beautiful practices and powerful practices. Thank you. Okay, well, now I want to share some contents of the module number 6 and the session number 2. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, this module is about the pathways for the impact of intercultural research in communitarian, national, and international context.
Este módulo es para,
This session is about the techniques for
esta sesión es sobre, me escucha, Ángela.
Sí, te escucho.
Necesito que me asignen entonces, porque parece que la asignación no está bien hecha porque no, si usted me escucha, yo estoy en los canales. ¿Me pueden cambiar la asignación? Perdón.
Hola, Alina. ¿Ahora mejor? Sí, bueno. Aprovecho para saludarte, Alina. Gracias por todo ese trabajo maravilloso que haces. Y entonces volvemos a la sesión. This session, number 2, is about some techniques to collect quantitative and qualitative information, okay? Our objective today is to discuss and to implement techniques to generate evidence. Yes, and first of all, we will talk about some practices of transcriptions and analyzing datas, quantitative datas, okay? And how we can elaborate intercultural collection instruments, okay? Well, first of all, I want here to propose some materials for you. You can check these documents and videos perhaps after the session. We have, for example, I think the most difficult for me, because my perspective is qualitative. For me, the big deal is how to found socio-demographic information and data, quantitative data produced not by international organizations or colonial organizations about indigenous women, but to know how you can produce your own data, okay? This is an interesting example in Mexico, and the National Institute of Statistics and Geography. I think in Mexico, many organizations, indigenous organizations and Afro-Mexican organizations have been working in this perspective. You have here, I am thinking about Jessie, for example, they produce data and they use, for example, infographies and different kind of research products to propose free access of this information, okay? I think the most difficult challenge is the non-disaggregation for indigenous people, because, for example, in the UN Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issue, many sessions during the last years have been talking about this problem, okay? We have a lot of data, but non-disaggregation in terms of indigenous peoples, and about indigenous women, I think is more complicated because we don't have data, okay? In this sense, your work is really important because we have this gap between the data produced by different actors and the problematic and the questions about indigenous women issues and agendas, okay? We have a little production of African Development Bank Group in Africa, but at the same time is the African Development Bank Group, no? Their perspective are a neocolonial perspective, and I think, for example, the work of Vivian or Fifian, Daisy, and Fatima are crucial in this sense. Well, I want to present some relevant topics about the analysis of indigenous peoples and women data. First of all, I want to to talk about three principles that the specialized literature is talking actually. The first is the principle of self-identification, yes, because the data, the collection data, for example, for African bank development is not in terms of self-identification only, but sometimes we have the problem of a non-registration of indigenous peoples, okay? It is important in this sense to develop multiple criteria with local indigenous peoples in a participatory and effective perspective, yes, to accurately capture their identities and their socioeconomic condition. Yes, I think, for example, the challenge about poverty, no? What is poverty when the perspective of poverty is produced by a neo-colonial organization, yes? And in this sense, your projects and your results and reports are really important to propose an intercultural perspective of these categories, okay? The second principle is the principle of free and prior informed consent at all levels and the human rights of indigenous people, because sometimes these organizations in the process they didn't put in the center the perspective of indigenous people's rights, and the data collection process is a process of revictimization and discrimination, okay? And in this sense, I think this principle is important, not for you because I am confident that your perspective is a respectful perspective, but in the case when you are working, for example, with the international cooperation, international organizations, enterprises, etc., I think this principle should be very important, okay? The last principle is a very huge challenge because, for example, in the Amazonian region here in Colombia, in Brazil, in Peru, Ecuador, we have indigenous peoples living in voluntary isolations, yes? After, for example, the war between Colombia and Peru, many indigenous peoples from the Amazon region decide to live in voluntary isolation. Yes, they are a non-contacted indigenous peoples. And many conservations or processes of NGOs, international NGOs. I am thinking, for example, about Amazon Team Conservation on WWF here wants to collect data in these regions, yes? And this exercise should re-victimize these indigenous people, yes? In this sense, data collection exercise should not be used as a pretext for established contact, forced contact with indigenous peoples living in voluntary isolation, okay? In the next part, I want to talk about participation, okay? Because in this process, it is important, yes, for example, the participation as equal partners, I know is not your problem as Indigenous women researchers, but sometimes we are working with economical resources of private sector or financial sector. It is important to do this kind of negotiation with these actors, okay? Because it is important to invite and to propose their participation in all the stages of data collection, including planning, implementation, evaluation, and results, and after the process of devolution, okay? I think this part of the dissemination of the results is the most difficult, yes, the action of how can I return these results to the participants, to my allies, and it's difficult sometimes because we don't have economical resources, for example, to come back to the community, because participatory and collaboratory processes are very expensive, no? But it is important to think about. I am thinking in your communication plans. I think is the module number, the session number 5, something like that, to think how you can return the results, because this phase is really important. No, I am thinking of these words of many Indigenous participants in research projects who are talking about this feeling and experience of extractivism. No, they feel empty after their participation in these kind of projects, and the most important, I think, these phases of dissemination and a returning the data is so important. I think another interesting point is that the data collection must respond to the priorities and needs of Indigenous communities, and in this case, Indigenous women's, okay? Actually, we are talking about Indigenous peoples observatories and instruments, because it is important, the training and employment of Indigenous women to be data collectors and researchers at the national and international levels. And I think it's a good opportunity for you to think perhaps about Indigenous women observatories in your communities, no? International cooperation and United Nations has a good opportunities to implement and design these kind of instruments. As Nai and Vivian were talking before, it is important to propose this process of data collection exercise in Indigenous languages, just to extend a possible cooperation, and perhaps in non-verbal and non-writing languages. I am thinking, I don't know if it is so difficult, but perhaps how we can talk about the statistics and qualitative methodologies using songs and dance. Yes, because sometimes it's difficult to understand statistics, but perhaps you you are at the same time in this world of research, intercultural research, and in the everyday and ritual knowledge of Indigenous peoples. And I think it could be interesting, no, to think how we can translate this technical knowledge in terms in everyday terms and cultural terms, okay? And finally, the significance because the data collection and this process requires a indigenous rights-based approach. Okay, and the production, elaboration of the indicators needs, sometimes international cooperation, United Nations, the governments, etc., imposed indicators, indicators, and sometimes these indicators doesn't help or contribute anything about the specific needs. And I think we need to produce our own indicators, okay? Because these statistics is an area of knowledge, a technical knowledge, and I think we don't have a lot of discussion and intercultural discussion with economists and policymakers, etc. No, I think it's a new discussion. Well, another important principle is diversity, yes, in terms of how I am analyzing the data, considering diversity and the intersectional demographic profile in indigenous communities, no? For example, at the same time as the African presentation, at the same time we're talking about gender, or for example, in the case of Colombia, we don't talk about gender, but about the human and families and generation indigenous perspective, okay? How we are at the same time analyzing the data in terms of intergenerational perspective, taking and points out the children's, youth, and elders. Okay, people with disabilities, rural areas and urban areas, and national borders. Yes, I know it's difficult. It's so difficult. It's a lot of work, and the time is short, and the resources too. But in the analysis, it could be interesting to do some little exercise about how I can propose an intersectional perspective. Today, we're going to do a little exercise, and perhaps we can try, okay? I think this last point is important because I have this question, how we can capture the statistic of nomadic and semi-nomadic and migrating peoples, yes, and specifically I am thinking about the case of displaced persons forced by violence, forced by economical reasons, yes, and how we can propose a specific interpretation, analysis, and recollection of these experiences, okay? I think the data collection is an empowerment process, is a very powerful process. And in this sense, I think you can establish the difference, between your process of collection of data. I think the terms of collection of data is problematic, okay? It's not really, you are not recollecting data, you are proposing human and non-human encounters, no? And the possibility to build together these data, yes? And in this sense, I think this information, it is important to think how after the diploma course you are thinking the devolution, no, the dissemination, to return this information to their community and for their own use, because confidentiality, as you said, many of you said the last sessions, confidentiality is important, is crucial, and at the same time, dissemination of the result too, yes, and how we are going to deal with this tension. Okay, some challenges, for example, the concept of indigenous peoples, no, in some languages, as for example, I have been this dilemma, no, how I express this concept or term in another language, no. It is important to indigenous is only an example, yes, but I know you have a lot of challenges in terms of translation and interpretation in English or Spanish. And sometimes I think it is important to propose indicators and definitions in your own language, okay? Because, for example, here in many indigenous peoples, we are working about sexual violence. For example, sexual violence is a foreign concept, yes? This concept doesn't exist in indigenous languages, okay? And it's not only a problem of the term of the word, but the perspective, the right before the concept, the possibility of restoration, etc., etc. Okay. Yes, yes. Sometimes languages, English or Spanish or French, don't give a complete picture of the indigenous population, peoples, and their needs and expectation. And in this sense, I think the question of interpretation translation is really important. Okay. And of course, the last challenge is when we are in a transitional society, for example, like Colombia or I am thinking of the Philippines, Myanmar. Yes, because we are talking about survivors of crimes, of war crimes, and in this sense, we have this big, huge challenge of how we are going to deal with this experience of pain, no? Okay, here I have an example of statistics on indigenous peoples in Canada. If you want, you can check the portal. It's a good example of data produced by indigenous peoples and indigenous women about the murders and disappearance of indigenous women and children in Canada. And for example, they don't talk about Aboriginal or Indigenous, but they use their own terms because that for themselves they are First Nations, Métis, or Inuit peoples. Okay, I think this is a good example of how we can use indigenous languages in this kind of exercise, okay? Here we have another example in Australia, yes, the Aboriginal groups in Australia, and some of her own indicators are, as for example, language and culture, social networks and well-being, Aboriginal health, Aboriginal education, war, crime and justice, housing stressors. And this is an interesting project. Nairi Kati, she's a very interesting Indigenous women researcher in quantitative research technique, analysis, plan, and processing. Yes, I think you can check this interesting experience. We have another experience, is the Indigenous data sovereignty. This is a Mayam Nairi Wingara proposal, and they have a lot of activities in terms of integrating qualitative and quantitative approach in a cross-cultural research. Okay, you have a lot of examples here, and I like this expression of Mayam Nairi Wingara, because she said Indigenous data sovereignty is everywhere all the time, and for her, and this organization producing data is a political act and an expression of agency. This is the Professor Maggie Walter giving a keynote address. You can see the video. She's working in epidemiological perspective, and I think she's acting as a bridge, between a very technical techno-scientific perspective as a socio-demographic perspective, and she's developing an intercultural and a cross-cultural approach in data collection tools, analysis, etc. I think this is an interesting experience. Okay. And here we have another example in the United States and Canada. This is an elder and a research, Lonevir Rodriguez. And for example, she's talking about sovereignty as tribal nations was given to us by the Creator. No, I think this is so beautiful, because she's saying data are sacred, no, and data help us to exercise our sovereignty. And this action of exercising our sovereignty is also sacred. And I think data is not just a tool, but for Indigenous peoples, quantitative data and methodologies was given to the Creator, is her statement, okay? We have another example of Robin Olber. This is a researcher, Aboriginal researcher in Australia. And for her, data collection and quantitative collection is a reaffirmation of the role of Indigenous women researchers in her country. And in this sense, I think you can yes, check the videos, etc. Okay. Well. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Well, I know this part of this part of quantitative data is hard. Now I want to propose an exercise, okay? To go in small groups. But before, I want to ask Dogman, do you want to share your materials? I want to ask, for example, Dogman, and I don't know if somebody else want to share any specific experience of materials. I have your video and your text. Do you want to share? And after I can explain the exercise. It is okay for you?
Yes, please. Yes, can you please play the video?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
¿Es este cierto?
Is this one correct?
Gracias, no la logré.
Yes, thank you. It's okay, don't worry.
Inya'y kanduyan, kawis ay agot ako amin, sa inta ko natagumpasin. Inakot iday engan, istoryan alapoy kalugidan, taalik kaliplipatan, istoryan dundong yapitan. Wada-wada pa'y si dungdong yapitan, daanay umagot mangusuan. Umayat pa'y si sikat ay buwan, sigon bagsak ay man. Ikaw nagdaigit yan ikaw na, ay maligligtan ay mangwani. Dungdung yapitan, into sa ligaw ay pinulod inam. Dungdung yapitan, into sa nalo ay pinulod inam. Dungdung yapitan, into sa piskuluya sa ako ay pinulod inam. Dadabay alaon kay man pala dungdung yapitan. Tawad ang sukat kay man, amin bisan binulod inanatay alika anapan. Kasus angat si dungdung yapitan, menaga kay man, matubad na inapon ng niyang. Ay enda ng kisuksukan kun inana at salalaydan. Adi pa'y danagdas ng idlumiyang. Pumalaw si sinandungdung yapitan. Kananod dungdung yapitan. Umayag ka kay inang, ay kalalaydan. Dakan mo pa'y mamisan, inayan pa'y inayan, ay dungdung yapitan. Ay dakan apod umalis hingkad admi ay alipulos kag agawan. Saan kapay kayat ay ulungan, munagod si dungdung yapitan. Unay baga kay man, inikanda ikit yali tao na. Munsunsud kun inana ay kay man. Ala, sumaakot ay anak ko, na ay diligaon, na ay di kandilo, na ay gidang disakot, awit alika kang kamidan si mauto. Sumaot si dungdung yapitan, datmen isugod si kinuto. Agganat ng kipanay umungan, mun kasing galapay mun istolya. Umalin pa'y daigit yan tao na, dungdung yapitan, umyalikas kinuto. Bumalapay din kinandungdung yapitan, ay mangwani, naay di inuun di anito.
Thank you, Doman. And this is the
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Can I maybe better that I speak now? Yeah, the chant, it's actually a chant called Dayeng. And so it's a very sad story, but also telling it, and then it's about orphans, and we don't have data about orphans. Speaking of data, and orphans have been historically very vulnerable. Often they're abused. So this story is about an orphan who like symbolically everything was taken away from her. The plate is a symbol of her source of food and living. So that the story also reflects that even the dead are still connected with the living. So in this story, the orphan went to see her mother, and who had to come back to the place of the living to restore justice to the orphan. Uh, I know because this form of communication is no longer. I mean, the grandmothers have died, But it's also good that it's the school that encourages traditional forms. But at the same time, it's important to give good stories, or to highlight the moral of the stories. Like it's a very sad song, but we chose this story because uh, it's like indigenous peoples, they are seldom talked about. I mean, their situation are seldom talked about, and it's it's like using the chants make it more meaningful. Even in the end, there's some humor, but then using the chant makes people listen and reflect deeply about the situation of orphans, and also to reflect on the lessons that are being forgotten, like greed and the neglect of orphans. So there's actually a moral of the obligation to take care of the more vulnerable, and this can also be interpreted as raising voices for the vulnerable indigenous peoples, but at the same time also highlighting that they also have uh, they also have capacities or strengths, or like this one, a strong connection to the spirit world, that justice can still be restored despite their vulnerability. Yeah. I think that's the story. Thank you.
Wow, thank you to you, Doman. Thank you. I think your analysis, okay, because perhaps many of you have some experience to how we organize the materials, and what can I do with the materials, okay? And perhaps some of you doesn't have some experience, okay? And I want today to work a little about this beautiful, exciting, and at the same time difficult moment to write, okay? In this case, we have the video, okay? Is an incredible intercultural material, okay? We have your narrative here, okay? And we have your analysis now in oral terms, okay? And now the question is how I can write my chapter, okay? This is, in your case, the chant, the story, and your analysis will be part of what chapter? Do you know? Do you remember your chapter, your objectives? Hmm?
We do.
Roman, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I can hear you from my end.
Okay. Domen, I think you have your micro. Okay.
Yes, I'm just trying to remember chapter 1, 2, 3. Oh,
Yes, because at this point, everyone know your question, your objectives, your general objective, specific. Now, in these modules, in this module, I want to do the practical work of how we can write, no? And it's important for today, for this exercise, to have in mind a specific chapter, okay? In your case, Toman, do you think is what chapter? Which chapter?
I think it's I think it can be discussed with chapter 1, the challenges also, that speaks about the vulnerability, and it also speaks about the lack of resources. But then with the treaty to find inspiration, so that moves on to chapter 2, I think, in like looking at the inspiration, looking at the problem, uh looking at the inspiration in the problem itself.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because this is a big decision, no? I have an incredible video and story, and I want perhaps to put these materials in many chapters at the same time. But we need to choose, okay?
Okay.
A good idea, for example, to use this material in your first chapter, okay? And now I want to propose to share with the group for the next exercise my own example. It's not because it's a good example, but I am working in this. Can you see my text?
Yes, yes.
Yes? Okay. This is my chapter, okay? My chapter as domain, my chapter is about individual sexualities, interreparation, okay? And intercultural women's circles. This is my chapter, okay? No, this is the section of my chapter number 3. My chapter number 3 is milestones in my, their, and our sex-affective body mapping, okay? This is my chapter. And now I have the first section of this chapter, okay? Here I have, for example, this Reynolds, yes? He's a researcher. And for example, he's talking about a circle of women. And for me, it was useful to know what is a circle of women for him, okay? For him, for example, because we developed with my WIWA alliance an intercultural women's circles, okay? First of all, before putting directly the material, I need to explain a little, okay? I want to share here their experience of the Intercultural Women's Circle, how many participants, yes, in this case, 20 participants comprising Indigenous, Mestizo, white women, was convened in January 2023. Yes, it is important to explain a little, okay? How many people, where, etc. Yes, we developed this Indigenous women and Mestizo circle in Patillal, the Indigenous community, yes, where in the department of Cesar in Colombia. We were under a mango tree. Yes, it is beautiful because the person who read it didn't know anything perhaps about our experience. Okay. As you see, I am, because sometimes I can write in English, sometimes it's difficult for me to translate and speaking, and I am writing Spanish, and it's okay. After we can work in the translation. For a translation, I have a very good tool that I want to share with the group. And after, for example, I am explaining, no, what we do. For example, in the first part, we propose a ritual dance. Yes, after the ritual dance, we propose a therapeutic sexual coeducation. Yes, using, for example, testimonies. Yes, and here, for example, I have the specific words of some women and my own history. Okay. This is an example of how we can use the materials and to distinguish between the material, and it is important here to use yes, I don't know how I say in English, comillas.
Quotations.
How do you say in English this?
Quotations. Quotation marks. Quotation marks.
For example, the protagonist of the video is talking. Yes, it's like
En las comillas.
like a possibility to distinguish. Alina, ¿cómo se dice comillas? No sé.
Quotation marks, dice Alina.
Gracias, Alina. Gracias. Gracias. Yes, the quotation marks is so important because we need to distinguish, okay? When I am talking, when is the man doing and proposing her analysis, and when is my ally talking, okay? And we use these quotation marks for that, okay? Another thing is the citation of the quotation of the authors, yes, because we can use authors, reports, or not authors. For example, here in my example, we can use to, for example, this is a theater expression of a case of Indigenous women violence. As when Vivian and I were talking, I am thinking about this exercise because in a theater expression, it was an example of Indigenous women violence. And for example, this is a material, okay? We can use to, for example, in this other section of my chapter, we can use, for example, painting. Yes, this is one of the body mapping of my students, talking about sexual violence at the university. Yes, and for example here, Rihanna is not her name. Okay, you can change the name, or and because for her, for example, she asked me for anonymization or confidentiality. Okay, and here, for example, I have the words, okay, the specific words of one of the students. I used the quotation marks, okay? It was very difficult for me to carry out the activity because of everything I experienced. I feel a lot of anger and hatred, okay? And you can use, for example, fieldwork diary, the city, in my case, Bogota, and the temporality, okay? Or you can use quotation marks like this. For example, one of my students, she told me, I would like to have 2 lists of reference and readings and examples, yes, because she said one about sexual violence and the other more hopeful, related to pleasure and hope. Because I am a survivor of sexual violence, I don't feel able to do the readings until the end. We use, in this case, the tantric dance methodology, and this experience helped me, okay? For example, the other quotation is the work on sexuality requires assertive listening for a free sexuality, and she introduced in Ika language Tanu Zamanu, Indigenous woman. Yes, this is an example, okay? How you can introduce your materials. Here we have some body maps about sexuality and pleasure. I was so confident in this session because the students were talking about, we want to talk about violence, but about pleasure too, and about sexual well-being. No, it was for me it was amazing to hear another perspective of how we can work in sexual education. Okay, this is a little example, yes, but now I think the interesting thing is to work in your groups. Sorry. And to do a little exercise, okay? To write the first part of your first chapter. It's amazing, no? The first part of your first chapter. Okay? And I want to propose to work in small groups with your partners from Asia, Africa, and Latin America, okay? During, I think, 20 minutes. And after, I will propose the group to share 1 or 2 paragraphs of your first chapter, because it is important to train, yes, the feeling, thinking, and to do the exercise. It's not easy for me sometimes, but when I start, after, it's like everything in life, no? You can stop after. Okay? It is okay? Okay. Perhaps we can have the break. And after we come back to organize the groups. Yes? ¿Sí, Onencita? ¿Te parece? Hacemos el break y después volvemos a los grupos. Lunen. Well, I think we can have the break and we can return in 10 minutes to work in the groups, okay? Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Well, hola Jessy, qué gusto verte. Me tenías olvidada.
Hola, aquí estoy.
Ok, bueno, entonces sí está claro
And we're back. Are you everyone clear with the exercise that we're going to be doing?
o más o menos.
More or less? Are we good?
Entonces, la idea es
So the idea is
tomar una,
let's take
digamos, es que esta palabra de material me parece tan compleja, ¿sí? Algo que les conmovió,
something that moved you,
que les resonó, que les evocó
something that sounded with you
en sus encuentros comunitarios,
in your community meetings,
que han tenido,
in the conversations that you had,
y que imaginan que puede ser
and that
útil
you
para ese
thinking
momento.
that are going to be useful for you.
Entonces se van a reunir en grupos, van a decir,
So
bueno,
let's get together with groups
esto es como lo que
and
me
say,
conmovió, ¿sí? Esto como
this
lo
is
que
what
me
moved
resonó
me, okay? This is
en
what
este círculo de
touched me.
cómo
This is what we did
vamos a hablar de nuestras
and
historias
how we spoke about the stories,
de violencia diferenciada.
about violence,
Me
and
conmovió
and that moved me when we talked about that.
quiero
And
poner
I said to
el
myself, I want
resumen
to put this meeting
y lo que logramos y lo que
and what we achieved and what we learned in my first chapter, in my first session, in my first chapter. Okay, that's kind of the exercise.
y una vez compartan entre
And then once we've done that, and you shared one amongst yourself,
van a imaginar cómo lo van
you're
a
gonna imagine how you're gonna organize it.
qué parte, por ejemplo, de
What part, for example,
Domán nos mostraba, ¿no?
Doman was showing us, for example, you has a video, she has a story, she has what she told us here, her analysis.
Entonces van a imaginar
So
cómo lo van a
imagine how you're going to organize it.
de organizarlo.
There are many ways of organizing it. I can put like directly putting
Una fotografía del video,
a picture of the video. Here's a video.
pasando en el
I can describe what's going on in the video. I can sing about it, or I can start
podría empezar
backwards. I can start saying this video was is a presentation about a children singing, and it took place in such and such place and such date. These people were there, so you can describe it, and that's up to you. How I want to present it. So when I invite people from here, like I had people come here, a group of students, and authorities, and spiritual authorities, and I wanted to teach them. So I said, okay, what do? I brought them chocolate, I brought them bread, and I had some sausages that I also bought. So I was like, how I want to receive and how I want to receive that people are going to be here. How do I want to touch the person? How do I want to touch their hearts? Do I want to talk about their thinking? How do I open their thoughts? So how do I organize the material? It's very important as well. All right, catch me?
Doman, Nanya, Vivian, it is okay?
Nanya,
Yes?
Vivian, is that okay? Do you get the idea?
The activity in your groups? The idea?
Yeah, I have some question.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, I'm a bit confused about when you were asking about the chapter, which chapter it should go, because then we had this workshop where we organize the chapters of our own topics, right?
Okay, yes.
So is this the chapter that we're going to follow, or you mean the the chapter 1, the introduction, and then the method, how we activate the process?
Okay, you can choose. You can choose what do you want. But I want to start the process of writing because writing is the most stressful part for me.
Okay.
And I think we need to start now because if you don't start now, it is difficult. I don't know, the last 2 weeks to write, no, everything. If you want, you can choose the methodology, but in your case, the man, you have the protocol. You have I remember I checked your project and you have the introduction, you have objective, you have the section of methodology, you have results, you have everything. And I think it's the case of everybody here, no? Or many of you. I think in your case, it's interesting to go on and perhaps you can choose if you want the introduction of your report or how do you want to. Oh, Itoman, se fue, man. She's gone. Okay. Somebody else? No. Oh, hi, Itoman. Okay. Yes, you can choose. You can choose what do you want. In my case, I choose many times to start by the materials because I like this part, no? But if you want to, you can choose the introduction, but I think you have your introduction yet, no? You have your methodology section, etc. But you can choose what do you want, okay? Nai?
I have a question. In the chapters, we may, I think so. Does it going to be the same to everyone based on the chapter, or we are going to see on how your topic is? For example, maybe let me take the example of myself as my topic. It is related with land issues. So in my chapters, I started the introduction. The first chapter is the introduction, the background, the historical perspective on land issues in Tanzania. And then in the second chapter, or I don't know if it will be the second, but I'll just get the guidance from you. I remember while presenting Madam Professor, I don't know, Lorena. There is something very important she spoke about, is that also try to see on how other stakeholders, especially indigenous organizations, are doing on the topic that you are trying to portray also. So from me, I think so also should be reflected before your analysis come. So I don't know, can we just help us personally, can you help on that so that we know, is the chapter going to see on the topic on how it is?
Okay. Okay. It's only an exercise, okay? It's only an exercise. I think you have your chapter because you have your specific objectives, okay? You can choose one of them for today and to do this exercise with your partners, okay? And to think, for example, in my first chapter, I'd imagine, I don't know, 3 sections. The first section about In this section is like to establish a writing plan, yes? In my first section, I think this Maniata ceremony could be interesting. I want to talk about this Maniata ceremony or this ceremony or this song. And in the other section, I think I can use the report of my organization. Yes, is a is a little exercise of thinking with your partners about the organization of one of your of the chapters, okay? And at the beginning it's difficult, no? We have a lot of questions, but I think the best, like for example, swimming. We cannot learn to swim in theory. We need to go to the river and to train in the river, okay? I think writing is the same thing. I want to propose to do the exercise, and after we can share your difficulty, your challenge, and I am sure that the exercise is not really difficult. Now, you have everything. You have everything. You have your objective, your chapters, and now I want to practice. Okay, it's not a test. It's not the final version of the chapter. Is only an exercise. Okay, it is okay, Nai?
Yes, it's okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, now go on in the groups. Okay. We have 15 minutes. Okay, and after we will share some of your ideas and questions. Okay. Tú, Nencita, ¿nos ayudas con los grupos, con los 3 grupos, para que ellas puedan compartir un poquito?
So we're gonna go into the breakout rooms now, and we do this exercise.
Disculpe, dijo algo, no se escuchó. Como esto de cambiar de los canales, a veces no se escucha muy bien.
Ok. No, le estaba
ya.
diciendo, sí, le estaba
Sí.
diciendo a Dona que nos ayudara con los.
Vivian?
Yes, Nai.
Tumekuja tena. Where is Daisy?
Daisy had difficulty joining the meeting. I don't know. So it's only the 2 of us now.
Yeah. Sasa, what are we doing?
Mimi, I somehow got confused. So we choose any topic? I mean, any section of the proposal of the report. So like that, it looks like the teacher wants to know our writing skills.
Yes.
Okay. Have you written? You have your proposal ready?
Vivian, acha mambo yako.
Sijaandika, but I will write.
Sijaandika wote. Ai, Daisy amekuja afadhali.
Hey, Daisy. We
have
have 15 minutes.
Leo nimeteseka. Wow.
Where are you from? Unakaa umetoka wedding?
Nimevalishwa na wamama, nimepewa leso.
Ati wedding jamani.
Sasa hata sijasikia mmekuwa mnaongelea. Mimi najaribu kusikia, inakatika, inanitoa, inanirudisha hadi karibu nalia.
So teacher anasema we write a chapter of our or our proposal of our report, yes. Ama nai niaje?
Tunachagua one specific objective. Alafu tutaitumia hiyo specific objective kuandika chapter moja ambayo tutaangalia methodology ambayo tutatumia. Kwa mfano ukisema, alitoa mfano kama tulikuwa tunasema methodology moja yapo ni gathering kama ya Manyata, utajaribu kuielezea inakuaje nini hivyo kidogo hivyo. Kwa hiyo we can choose from any of us topic yoyote ya one specific objective kati yetu, and then we explain that. Read kama chapter kafupi tu. Ndio nimemwelewa hivyo.
Nimeelewa, asante Nai.
Thank you, Nai. Sasa ni 15 minutes. Hebu tuchukue moja, ni ipi tunachagua? Daisy ndo umetoka kwa mama sahi, kwa hiyo uko vizuri.
We tupe kwanza specific objective yako kisha tu wako neat.
Wewe hatujaandika, shida ndo hiyo.
Mimi niko na yangu.
Sawa Vivian, toa yako please.
Where Daisy? So to identify the environmental impact of cement production on natural resources and ecosystem services critical to the Pokot community's livelihood. So that is one of my objectives. You remember initially I had written to evaluate the environmental impact of the cement production on natural resources and ecosystem. But Teacher Lorena said I cannot evaluate. You know, that's like our own research. So to identify now, to identify the environmental impact of the cement production. So what I will do personally to identify, I will use So I will work with the community. I will ask the community to mapping using a paper. The community understands their landscape and they know where their resources are, right? So it's like I will use community resource mapping to know where the resources are. And then now ask them, what are the impacts of this cement industry on those resources that they have mapped? So I will use mapping.
Kwa hiyo ni methodology, si ndio hivyo?
Yeah.
Inabidi hapa tuandike.
Nai kuwa tu nini wetu ama Vivian?
Daisy na wewe?
Aya, sasa mimi specific objective yangu moja yenye ni question inaweza iko kwa yenu wote, like it is relatable, is to identify specific social-cultural norms, traditions, and practices within the Pokot community that act as barriers to girls' education. Sasa, one of the methodologies that I will use is the use of songs, because my community, they are very hapa tuko Kiswahili peke yetu. So niache kujitesa na Kiingereza nikilemewa.
Kiswahili. Lakini kumbuka kuna wale wa kuinterpret wako
wanafanya
nini? Wako. Sasa usiongee vibaya.
Asiezi. Sasa so methodology that I'm going to use is my community is very sensitive sometimes. When we say we do body mapping and drawing, they can be a bit shy, and it is something that, just like Vivian said the other time, they will sing about the thing, like let's say for example genital types and all that, but they will not draw and identify. It's very hard. So the best thing I will do is I will use storytelling. Next thing is songs, because that is what we mostly use to address issues. Yeah, thank you.
So like we asked to write a chapter. How are you going to present that information or your findings in writing now?
I think so. You know, ulivyokuwa na explain Vivian, mimi nilivyoelewa. First of all, we have the specific objective, which is identifying. If I'm not mistaken, you can just say it again. So, if you are identifying, what are you identifying, first of all? So we analyze by, we start by explaining it on issues that you're going to analyze, to identify first. Second, when you come to the mapping, community resource mapping, kwenye identification pale utazi-mention zile resources ambaye utazipata ndani, alafu ndo utaanza kuona attachment zake na ile community na impact iliyotokana na swala la cement industry. Kwa hiyo ile chapter itakuwa ina challenges, ina zile important resources ambazo zimegusa moja kwa moja community.
Government suppress our community. So yeah,
Government
suppress our community.
by what? By
We lost Nabila.
Yeah. Did you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes.
Trying to make notes.
Yeah, government suppressed us, so not allowed to go to school, and
You mean the
not
women? Sorry.
not only
government
women,
suppressed the
our
women.
community, not only
Oh.
women, total our community.
oh, community too. Okay.
Yeah, total our community, and they don't allow to work in government job, in any other higher position job. So they are not allowed to speak their rights and everything. So because of that reason, total our community is backward. In this community, women are not much powerful. They cannot raise their voice. They can.
Naina is freezing, right? Or me? I don't know. Naina is freezing.
Yes.
It's freezing.
Hello.
Yeah.
Where's
Can you hear
Nana?
me?
Where is she now? Let me just share my screen on the notes, okay?
Okay.
Can
Yeah,
I
maybe
do that?
better, yeah.
Yeah,
But,
so that like we are writing. It's like
so we
Naina
got the
writing, but
we got the points from Naina that
there.
there is the government suppress, yeah. Yeah, like
Yeah.
education. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. And then government, and then the culture of this, yeah.
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 She's
Plus power, yeah.
she's defining. She was defining. Naina, can you hear us already? You were defining what backwardness was.
Yeah,
Because that
backwards,
was
yeah.
the question, no?
Yeah,
Situation
yeah.
of backwardness. So is this right? 15 years ago? 15 or 50?
Not 15 years, maybe 45 years.
Oh, 45 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
4
Years
decades.
ago, government suppressed
Maybe. Yeah, 4
Yeah,
decades.
so
community.
why was government suppressing?
There is a long history about that.
I mean, the whole community. Why do they like
Yeah,
to suppress the
total.
whole community?
Yeah, whole community, because Tamang people are near the capital city. The capital city is their area, but government rule in that area, and they replace the people from there.
Oh, they relocate, yeah, the people, Tamang people,
Yeah.
because it considered maybe
Replace from,
minority, yeah. Can we say like
yeah,
minority is a minority as
we
well?
are registered in not minority. Maybe we are registered in what is called minority. Yeah, let me source. So we.
So they were displaced?
Yeah,
Is that
displaced from the capital city, and they stay near the city, near the capital city. There is a hilly region, hill.
Okay, yeah, hill, yeah.
So is Tamang people lives in 9 district near the Kathmandu Valley. It's the capital city near the capital city in a hill. So there is a problem for agriculture and other income in that area. This is not developed. This is a underdeveloped area.
Slum area? Slum? No?
Sorry,
Slum? Slum area? Like a slum, messy.
I didn't understand.
It's messy place, like a slum area.
It's a hilly region. It's a hill.
Oh, it's hill, okay.
Yeah.
But
You
it's
mean
nearby
you
the
mean
city, yeah?
do you mean the may I clarify? Do you mean the capital was an agricultural area, good land, or and then the government came in and wanted to
Mm.
build it as a city, or like
Yeah.
urbanized?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
And
And
replace
so that
them.
the
Yeah.
community was pushed out, was relocated to the hilly region, which is not good for agriculture.
Exactly.
Okay. So tamang community used to be agricultural and lives in the I see.
Yeah, because we are near to the nature and yeah, near to ecology. So our daily life and our life is attached to the nature. So they collect some raw materials from the forest and make some handicraft and other kinds of work which is directly connect to the nature, and they earn the financial return from to sell the product.
Mm.
But government not allowed go to the forest and cut the things, so they detach us from the nature. So it's totally hard to survive.
Mm. Mm.
Oh, okay.
Nana, I have a question.
Yes,
Can you
Nana.
hear me?
Yeah, yes.
Nana, are the Nepali indigenous women get a debt problem like us? Because
So
it is related to social economic conditions.
yeah, so what is your problem? Can you share me?
And I'm asking you, like, they are easy to access any financially loan or other resource they can access it, or they have any debt problem.
Yeah, exactly that another issue. There is some small microfinance. They get hardly they get the loan from them, but it's hard to return the loan. So due to that reason, they mm, they left their home and migrate from other place. They do suicide and other criminal activities. um,
I cannot hear you.
Hello.
Hi, Nana, can you please rephrase your last statement? You mentioned that they are doing criminal. What does that mean? You mentioned that the woman do
We
criminality.
cannot.
they do suicide. They
Oh, they do suicide. Okay.
yeah, suicide and thief. They thief
Oh,
or
they
they
steal.
stolen other property.
Oh my gosh. They do
And
criminality.
also yeah,
Wow.
this is a high rate.
Oh, that's wow.
Oh
We
my.
need to write down about that.
And
Oh,
also Tamang men, not women, Tamang men known as a fighter because people
Fighter?
scared with them. Yeah, people scared with them because they can fight, they can kill, they can hit anyone, so they scared. The Tamang men, not a women, Tamang men.
oh.
And so
What
women
about
cannot.
Tamang women? They also
Oh, not
strong,
women are not like that. Women,
strong?
women are
No?
women cannot raise their voice, and they are not involved in
Oh,
that
okay.
much of violence.
Hmm.
Okay. Oh, a report connection.
Nana, maybe you can turn off your video, or I can turn off my video. Because-
I was lost. My
Yeah.
battery died. Yeah, but let me share the screen again.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
Florence,
so
Nana said that the woman do criminality like stealing something,
yeah, it's like
stealing
I
and
think this one
that
is reasons. This one is like status. Am I right?
yeah, but they become a criminal, stealing
Yeah, yeah,
something.
yeah. So
Yeah.
And they committed
women
suicide,
involved in
criminal
crimes
crimes like thief,
like
Women
it's a
or
thief.
man?
robbery.
I heard
No,
man.
no,
I heard
Oh,
women, they become thief. I heard about
oh,
that.
women
really.
and men, maybe.
Yeah,
Naina,
men are fighter. They hit
I
people.
heard a man, but
They
I
kill
didn't hear
people. Yeah,
I heard
okay.
women
women are only a thief.
Oh
become
my
thief, right?
God, it's so sad, huh?
Yes,
See,
women are only a thief.
see,
And
and they
then
committed suicide,
suicide.
right?
Do
I
women also
yeah.
Yeah,
commit suicide?
Wow,
yeah.
Yeah.
mental
Yes.
health. Wow, wow, mental
Why?
health.
Why?
Maybe because
So
Yes.
mental
men
health.
and
Women.
women.
They're suffering mental
Is
health. They're suffering mental
is
health. That's very yes.
is
Women.
this
Okay. No, I want to understand that while we were supposed to write in a continuous tense now that we are doing it, or you want to write, we should not write as I'm doing, I'm nini, but we write as already from the field, now we are presenting it. What did you meant by? Mm-hmm. Okay, okay, I get you. Now I get you, yeah. Yes, yes.
Please, do you want to share? Yes, go ahead. I'm going to share my screen. I've had the first encounter, and we were talking with Jess about the activities that we've all done. And well, I'm going to share a little bit of this first encounter that I've had with the sub-central Villanca, and it has 9 communities. So I came to talk to them, to present the work to them, which would be an intercultural research, and who would want to participate, how many communities wanted to work with me. I know that 9 is a lot, so I thought maybe 4 or 5, and that they are really committed. So I'm here. I was presenting to each brother the project that we were doing because I had 15-20 minutes. It wasn't a lot because it was the order of the day of the subcentral. And in that time I explained, and they said that they're all going to work together and that we're going to set a date to get together and work on this research and see how the methodology is going to work, what research techniques we're going to use because it's participatory, and so we just define it with them, along with them. These are the authorities. This is a brother whose name is Juan Colque. Here we have all the sisters. I don't have a very good camera, but so the pictures are not very clear, but here are the Bartolina sisters, which are, and the rest of the indigenous authorities. So I share a small testimony of the first encounter and the importance to restore the lands and what impacts we've had currently. So he says, I asked help to the president and the governor of La Paz according to the natural disasters that have affected our chakras, freezing our crops. The government answered giving us responded by providing synthetic fertilizers to some of the communities, and some members decided to add it to their lands and others refused because they understood the damage that it was going to make to the land and to their crops. We also asked help to the Cualquiri municipal mayor due to the lack of water, and in support, he stated that we must obtain. He gave him a tank of 200 liters to the subcentral, and there's 9 communities. So amongst all of them, they say they leave it on the central spaces and they don't use it. So that hasn't been a good solution that the mayor gave. So they see these situations and they say we have been abandoned. And the truth is that we have been depending on the government and the mayorship, and they don't know what to do. Even the authorities don't know what to do in the face of the climate change situations that are hurting the communities because they are producers and they don't know what to do a lot of the times. So that's one of the testimonies. And there's another brother that said something similar, that an NGO came in to help because they also produce cañagua, which is cebollo quinoa, and they saw that they produced that in their land, and they gave them improved quinoa seeds. And 2-3 years, the lands were not producing the same as before because they exported to Peru and they sold to other places. And unfortunately, to see that the lands were not producing, the NGO left and they abandoned the communities. And unfortunately, right now the lands are less fertile and they're looking for solutions to these problems. This is what I can share because I still haven't gotten into a chapter research because we have already set a date to work on the research project. Perfect. Look at there, you already have, I would say, at least 2 pages that you can write with this data and material that you have collected. You have, for example, the pictures. For example, the pictures are it's very important to identify them, to add a title. What you were doing right now, orally, to add a chapter, the date that it was taken, if somebody's helping you, you said your sister was helping you to put her name, you recognize her work, you say it's the Bartolina Sisa for me that I've read and I have admired the process. To see them sitting there it's a visibilization that you make that's very important of the process. So there you already have material, and see how you can invite them so that we don't just use, sometimes the uses of the pictures is just cosmetic. Like we just put them all there and that's it. In an intercultural research, this picture is so important that you're bringing in. That's the statistics of the World Bank. So you can do a work there to analyze how many women were there. That's what the demography does. If just with this triptych that you present here, how they're sitting in the back amongst them, they're in the back and the men are in the front. Who are these people? Only the analysis of the picture is a great analysis. And with this testimony that he makes, and then you add it, and then after you analyze it, you can do that in writing, and that would be your analysis. So it's as if that was a polyphony, a song of three voices. On one side, we have the visual, and on the other side, we have the narrative, and on the other side, we have your analysis. And to put everything together, it was going to give you the possibility to theorize. What theory, what intercultural concepts from the Bartolina Sisas and the community's perspective allows you to provide some support. So it's a little bit of what we're telling Vivian. You already started a long time ago. Here you only have your final report, because here the objective is not to write the objective, but to also think on the final report. So that's kind of the idea. Is that okay for you, Liz? Is that clearer? And wonderful. You have a great amount of work in there that's very interesting. Okay. I propose that we see each other in 8 days, next Friday. Each one of us is going to be go thinking. You can take advantage today to start writing and preparing your chapters. The advice I give you is that you don't leave it for the last days, because the process of writing is evident when you write it with time. And it's very different than if you write it in 2 days. I can do it. I'm sure you guys can do it. You can do a report in 2 days, but the result is not going to look the same. I think the research is a dish that needs to be cooked in slow fire, and it looks different. And it's a deep process than when I'm buying a sausage or a hot dog. And so invite you, I share because it's important for me to take a little bit of time out every week to do that, to move forward. And then you're writing, really quickly and rushed without enjoying the process. Okay.
Yes, teacher.
Bye,
Bye.
teacher.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I'll be the last one to leave.
Bye. Thank you.
Mm.